Hi everyone, it's Dawn, and we're getting close to summer and peak cruising season, and there's a lot of first-time cruisers out there. So I thought I'd give you some of my best tips for being a first-time cruiser, and even if you're a second and third, you still may, yeah, that makes sense kind of thing. So we're going to talk about those tips right after this. First off, fly in the night before. Unless you live very close to the cruise port, it's not worth not spending $150, $200 to spend a nice relaxing night in a hotel than it is to fly in the day of and seeing delayed on your flight when you're waiting for your airplane to land or take off, and that sailing time on the ship is ticking away, and you take that chance on missing the cruise altogether just because you didn't want to spend one night extra in a hotel. Now, if you can't do it because of vacation and things like that, make sure you book as early a possible flight, even if it's multiple stops. The sooner you get to the port, the better off you are. Another tip is don't bring a lot of cash. Everything on the ship can be charged to your credit card. You check in with your credit card, they give you the cruise card, and everything can be charged on that. Or you can pay a lot of it also in advance, like your shore excursions, upgraded dining, gratuities. Everything can be done in advance so you don't have any big bills when you're done on your cruise ship. On a 14-day Caribbean trip, I brought $300 American with me. That was to pay for my pre-night hotel, not the hotel itself, but for dinner, transfers to the port, breakfast in the morning, and taxi from the airport to the hotel, buying things on shore excursions like t-shirts and things like that, and I still went back with half my money left. So you don't need to carry a lot of cash with you, and the least amount of cash you carry, the better off you are. For the average person, the drink packages just aren't worth it. If you're spending $79, $80 on a drink package, that means you have to drink 7 to 10 drinks every single day, including the day you get on the ship, to make it worth your while. So if you're on a port and you go on a shore excursion from 9 a.m. till 3 in the afternoon, that means from 3 in the afternoon to when you go to bed, you have to drink 7 to 10 drinks just to make your money back. And instead of having that drink and enjoying the drink, you tend to be drinking for the sake of drinking so you don't waste your money. The only benefit of paying for that drink package is, again, making, if you don't want any bills at the end of your cruise and just want to have everything paid for in advance. If you're not worried about overspending on the drinks, then go ahead. But if you're trying to keep your money costs down, really the drink packages are hardly worth it. Number 4, never ever forget to put your cell phone on airplane mode. You go away for 7 days, you didn't switch it over, you come back, you got a $500 to $700 extra phone bill waiting for you, and now you got to call your provider and say, I forgot to put it on airplane mode, I really didn't use my phone, and hope that they will reduce the bill for you. It's very easy to feel safe when you're on a cruise ship. First of all, you got to go through security in the port. They're checking everybody's bags. You get on the ship, there's security on the ship, there's crew members everywhere on the ship, and it feels really, really secure. But remember, once you leave that ship and hit the port, you're no longer being protected by everybody around you. So the ports are normally fairly safe and things like that, as long as you stick to the tried and true areas. Don't be heading down the main street where everyone's walking and say, oh, you know what, I'm going over there. Instead of going down the main street like this, I'm just going to take this back alley. Yeah, you're probably going to have a bad time if you do that in some ports. If you're like me and you have cell phone, camera, computer, don't forget, bring those little adapters that have a USB port as well as extra plugs in them. Because there's very few on the cruise ship, and if you have 3 in your room, you're actually pretty darn lucky, because some of them only have one outlet in some rooms. So having that adapter is so much easier to make sure you don't run out of all your juices for all your thing. Every cruise ship cabin has a safe. Use the safe. Your passport, your wallet, your purse, all your valuables should be in that safe, and the safe should be closed at all times. A lot of people, when it's a sea day, they open up their safe, they'll take something out of it, and they leave their safe open thinking we're not on port anymore, everything's okay. That's probably the worst time to do it. So if you have stuff in your safe, make sure the safe stays closed. Make sure you don't tip twice. Gratuities are the same as tips, and a lot of people don't realize that. When they see their bill, they say, oh, we've paid our gratuities and we prepaid them, and then they get on board and they start tipping the waiter $10. They tip their the server in the restaurant. They start tipping people all over the place. Well, you're tipping twice, unless you mean to do that, which is great. The people really appreciate it, but you don't have to. You've paid your gratuities up front. That's the tips. That's what that means. If you're one of those people who suffer from motion sickness easy, if you're on a bus, you can get sick in a long period of time. If you're driving in a car for a half hour, an hour, and you get sick, you're susceptible to motion sickness. So if you're going on a cruise, you want to make sure you get the least moving cabin possible, which would be dead center of the ship, lowest part of the ship, inside the ship. Because the further up you go, the more the ship rocks. The further forward and back, the more the ship rocks. And even from a balcony to an inside cabin, you're going to feel more motion. This most stable part of the ship is inside, bottom deck, midship. One of the best things for anybody going on a cruise, especially if one that has a lot of sea days and you spend a lot of time by the pool area gets very wet and very slippery. If you're walking around in normal shoes or normal slippers or even your bare feet, there's a high probability that you're going to slip. And even if you just slip like this, you could hurt your hip, you could hurt your knee. The best thing to do is to make sure you get sandals, and those sandals have very thick rubber soles. And if you don't get those, get the rubber-soled water shoes. That's the pair that I get. I don't slip at all on those things because they're made for going into the water, into the pool, and they're very secure on your feet. They're not flip-flops flipping up and down. They're actual shoes. So if you're going to spend a lot of time on deck, make sure you purchase some of those before you go on your cruise. And lastly, especially if you're a first-time cruiser, never, ever, ever be late for the ship. Everyone can't be late for the ship, but a lot of first-time cruisers don't realize the ship's not going to wait for you. If you book a shore excursion through the cruise line and it's running late, not a big problem because it's through the cruise line. If you book a shore excursion someplace else through somebody else, or you just wander off the shore by yourself and you're late getting back to the ship, that ship may have left and you're stuck there and you have to pay for everything to catch up to your cruise. And even if you book a big group shore excursion not through the cruise line still might leave you behind. Recently, 15 people were left behind on the horizon because they couldn't get back to the dock in time because there was an accident where they were and they couldn't get around the accident to get back to the dock. And they had to find their way back to the next port in order to catch back up to the ship. So it doesn't matter if you're by yourself or in a huge group, if you're not through the cruise line and you're late for the ship, it might not be sitting at the dock when you get there. Now, all these tips might seem like common sense to a lot of us who cruise a lot and things like that. But remember your first time whenever you're cruising. The thoughts that went through your head. How do I get my luggage on board? Should I fly in the day of? How much money do I need to bring? Do I need to bring credit cards with me? All these different questions. So I hope these answered some of those questions for you if you're planning your first cruise. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more tips and more cruising vlogs, I'm traveling a lot this year. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.